Morning, everybody. My name is Cheryl Strathman, and I'm Chair of the Public Health Committee, and I'd like to call to order on, what day is today? Wednesday, October 18th, Public Health Committee. Please call the roll.
Tooby. Here. Silva. Tarver.
Silva is here requesting remote attendance, please.
Tarver.
Tarver's here.
Williams. Young.
Young here.
Sanchez.
Sanchez present.
Strathman.
Strathman here.
You have quorum.
And I had requests from Mr. Tarver and Mr. Williams. I don't think he's on yet, Mr. Williams. Oh, are you on now, Mr. Williams? I see him. Well, we have a request for them to attend remotely. And Dr. Silva, do you wish to attend remotely as well this morning?
Yes, ma'am. I did reach out and I did send an email as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any objection to these remote attendance? Okay, thank you for joining us. Okay, we will start our morning. Oh, I just want to say that today in 1867, this was the first day the American flag flew over Alaska. How about that? Doesn't seem like that long ago.
Thank
does
you,
it?
Chairman Shepro.
Yeah. He taught me well, didn't he?
It's actually also World Okapi Day.
Yes, Mr. Shepro. Good morning. Okay, we have some public speakers who have signed up. And I see that some people have signed up. Oh, excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. I'd like to have a motion and a second for approval of the minutes from September 20th, 2023.
Sanchez
Tarver
asked for
moves.
unanimous consent.
Okay, we've asked for unanimous consent for the minutes. Okay, thank you. The minutes are approved. Now we'll go to public comment. I have several people who have signed up. I would like to say we do not have a budget item on our agenda this morning. That's just the financial reports. So those of you who are choosing to speak on budget will be at the end of the meeting, but we should be real quick this morning. So first, David, I don't think you're is on a.
It's off agenda.
Okay, all right. So I think everybody's off agenda this morning. Got a very quick meeting, so we'll get to all our public speakers pretty quickly. So we start this morning with the financial reports. They are in your packet if you have any questions. Okay, and then we will go to animal control.
Good morning, everyone. I have some updates today. Sorry. First thing is our last vaccine clinic will be Saturday, October 28th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. If any of your constituents are interested, please send them out. Be a little colder this year, but should be fun. The other two things are the HVAC unit. I went back after our last meeting, spoke to Henry and his team over there at building management. They're going to try to repair the unit because it's only 7 years old. Their initial impression was that it actually was the year of the building, which was going on 17 for the replacement. They believe they have the replacement part. I don't have an estimate. I've reached out and they're waiting on the company right now. So once I have those details, I'll be able to update everyone and give you a full update to what's going on, but building management is on it. The other update is on the generator. We did have the bid meeting yesterday. There were multiple companies that came out on site with Tim from purchasing, and thank you to purchasing for all their amazing help. We had the bid meeting. We showed everybody what the generator is we're trying to do, showed them around the facility and so they're putting together their bids now, and hopefully I'll have that information for you, if not next month, the month after, but that is moving forward at the moment. We know there's a big debate going on about payment, and it was put into the 2025 budget with facilities. My fear as the administrator of animal control is I need to do what's right for the animals at all time. And that's the task that was put on me. I want to ensure that's done. Since I've taken over this role of animal control, we've saved our pennies, and we have some put aside that we would be able to front the funds to put in the generator. I just don't believe that waiting, and if the board feels otherwise, please let me know. Waiting on this, we've already waited 16 and a half years. We've already played the game of, are we going to run out of power or not? I don't want to keep rolling the dice anymore. I feel, if this was Vegas, we're going to hold at 17. So I feel animal control needs to put forth to get the generator installed as soon as possible, and we can worry about everything else on the back end. If the board feels otherwise or feels I should go in a different direction, please let me know. And I'm always open to listening and hearing what the board thinks is best for our facility. And that's all I have this month.
Okay, I think we decided as committee last month that we were in support of you getting funding for that.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
and also because the HVAC is repairable, does that mean you don't have to worry about December and no heat?
What I'm being told is yes. So again,
Well, we'll all
I will
keep our
have
fingers
more of an
crossed.
update. Building management is working on it. They told me worst case scenario, we'll go to the backup heating unit can be attached to the building and we can run off that. So also right now our 3 front units are working. And thankfully, if you guys have been there, our building isn't huge. It's like a brick. We can open all the doors, use some fans and circulate heat. And right now with all the animals in there, we're fine. They're producing enough heat. So it hasn't been an issue yet, knock on wood, but I continue to work with building management to get that taken care of.
So it's kind of back in the olden days where they brought the animals in to keep you warm.
Keep you warm, yes.
Okay, okay. Yes, Ms. Shuby.
So I second what the chair said. I've always been in support of you having your generator, and I think it's on us to get that to be done. I have an odd question to ask you. When you get your free tags, those are generally senior tags, right? Do you keep track of the names of those people? Like if you've had someone that's come in for 4 years and had a senior tag and suddenly they don't come in for a senior tag, you can assume maybe the pet died, but maybe something happened to them. I know a lot of vets actually promote wellness, and a lot of vets will call their clients that they haven't seen to make sure they're okay. Do we do anything like that as we're tracking our tags to see if we maybe have a constituent that needs a little one of our services that maybe Michael could offer?
It would come down to staffing. You're talking hundreds of thousands of people that we enter a year into their system. Yes, every person is tracked to a unique tag. That's why the state mandates those tags, because that tag number is then unique to that animal, and no one else would have that animal in our county. What other counties do is their thing. But in our county, no one else will ever have that tag number. We just don't have the staffing. So what we used to do is we used to do robocalls. And then there was a big push against the robocalls and banning robocalls. So we moved away from that. What we do now is we try to collect as many emails as possible, because emails, you don't want it from us, you can block it, you can put in your junk mail, do whatever you want with it. We actually send out monthly emails now at the beginning of every month for people whose animals are due. The veterinary hospitals already do that, but we try to keep up with it as well. And in there, it talks about if you've moved out of county, if you no longer own this animal, help us keep our information up to date so we can ensure you don't receive these anymore. And we've had a great response back from the email side of it. There are security settings, though, that don't let government emails still look like spam to people. They still get blocked. But for the most part, about 90% of our emails get out. And again, that's why we're constantly trying to gain as many emails as possible, not to track people, not to utilize it bad, nothing more than to send it out. And also what it's doing is building our database that should the health department ever come to us and say, hey, we need to blast this about animals, we have a way to do it through our system as well, that we could blast to every one of those emails we have in our system. So it is something we're working on. It's just not perfect. I wish everybody could be called, but as our state's attorneys put it, that's also assuming these people still have animals, assuming they're still in the county, and a lot of assumptions. And so we were told we couldn't go down that path.
No, I understand. I just didn't know if it was something
Oh, no, totally. Yeah.
that we did. So.
But yes, we tried to follow up through
Okay,
emails.
so we can, we're legally obligated to, or legally able to.
It is not a legal mandate at all that we do it.
But
It is
we-
just a service that we
Got
feel
it.
should be provided to the community. And in all honesty, I can do it for free with the system I already have,
Okay, thank you.
of course.
Any other questions? I have a
Madam
question.
Chair,
for you. I'm sorry, who is that?
this is Silva,
Silva.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Dr. Silva, you have a question?
Yes, good morning. I just wanted to thank our director and Commissioner Anita Lewis, because I joined them in a career talk, and I was very impressed to hear his background and how much he advocates for the animals. So I just wanted to thank him and just remind everybody what a wonderful animal director we have, animal control director we have. I'm sorry, I'm not thinking straight this morning, but those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Silva. We heard
Yes,
the
we were
word
at East
hit.
Aurora High School. The kids were phenomenal. And Dr. Silva, thank you. It was absolutely a pleasure giving my presentation with you, and thank you.
I have a quick question for you. In your reports, you list dogs and cats and others. What are what are some of the others?
We get a lot of sick and injured is a big thing we pick up in this county, and that's sick and injured raccoons and skunks, bats. Those are your top 3 intakes we usually have. But there's been times it's been in the livestock family. We've had pigs, we've had goats, we've had sheep, couple horses we've had to in the past move through. But that's the bulk of it's usually our wildlifes fall into those others.
Okay.
We've had some sick birds, injured birds that we've taken out to our wildlife centers. And so that's what kind of moves through that category.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions? Okay, moving right along.
Thank
you. To Michael Isaacson. Good morning, Michael.
All right. Good morning, everyone. We just have a few slides to go through today with some highlights. One thing that I'm going to start with is we are working on a new strategic plan for the health department. So this is something that I'm actually going to be sending out a survey to all board members, just looking for your input on what's important. What do you think is important for your constituents in terms of what the health department should look like and what we should be focused on? So we will look for your feedback. So hopefully when you get that survey, you'll respond to us. But what we're looking to do is put together a new 3-year plan. We'd like to have this completed by the end of January. So right now we've started with our leadership team, and we're going to be expanding out over the next 2 months to include staff. We're very fortunate to have really dynamic, fantastic people working at the health department. So they know much better what it is that the clients they're working with need. So pairing this as we're getting initial information from our community health improvement plan, I think is really going to help shape what we're doing in the future. So stay tuned for that. There's going to be a lot more information there. And then just I wanted to give you a couple of highlights on some things that we are working on also that are kind of mini projects, but they're really important. So we are looking under the direction of Director Barrett and Director Onwuda, who are here today, at our document retention and destruction policies. So just taking something like COVID, we literally have hundreds of thousands of paper records where people have signed consents for these vaccines. So we're working with IT. We're looking at what's the best way to store these things. It's 2023. What are we able to digitize? What are we able to destroy? Looking at space constraints in our building, making sure we're in compliance with all laws. And then also looking at when we get requests for records, not necessarily FOIAs, but when we get subpoenas and things like that for someone's medical records. The civil division at the state's attorney's office has always been fantastic to work with, but we're tightening up our processes there. So we have a better mechanism in place for how we track things going on. And then under the direction of Director Peterson and Director Alleman, we're looking at job description updates. So I'll just skip one for a second. And actually this goes in with the salary penetration study as well. So Human Services Committee passed the new grades that we have. So we just received our information a couple days before that vote. I am thankful for Director Labrillo, and I think Committee Chair Surgis, they've been very good at being open that this is going to be a work in progress and there's no finish line for it. So now our team is looking at, well, how do those gradings look? And do we need to change our job descriptions? And I think the answer is yes, to better fit people into different categories to make sure that we have a way to stratify people in a way that makes sense. But also because we're a relatively flat organization, that's always been a challenge for us to provide opportunities for growth for people. And as a matter of fact, we just lost one of our supervisors who I think was kind of feeling capped out in their role. So they've moved on somewhere else. So now we've lost all those years of experience. And this is, I just want to commend the work she done. Erin Rauscher, one of our environmental health supervisors, has moved on to take another job somewhere else. Likewise, our planner, Stacy Zhang, who's done a fantastic job for the health department for many years, Also, because we're relatively flat, we've run out of opportunities for people to grow into positions. So we're losing both of those fantastic employees to other places right now, which is regrettable. So we're looking at the job descriptions, trying to identify, are there ways that we can find to make sure it's accurate, to make sure we're paying people appropriately, and to make sure we fit into the grading system. So I just wanted to give you an update on that, because I know that'll be coming to the board in the next month or so. Moving back up to employee life cycle, as it is in some of the literature, we're looking at recruiting all the way to retirement or separation, and the whole process for how we do onboarding, how we do employee orientation, how can we, again, it's 2023, almost 2024. We have a lot of paper that we still shuffle around. As a matter of fact, I just had Chair Strathman signed some papers for me this morning. We'd like to digitize as much of that as possible. And I think there's a lot more opportunity, again, as we look at building up our staff for how we can do a better job getting people on board. So we'll have more information to share about that soon. So just a couple, it's kind of the inner workings of the health department, but just in case you're interested, I do appreciate we have a very engaged board here. So always happy to talk more about that with folks if you're interested.
Sounds like a big job.
Yeah, we got a great team, and
Yes.
along with Director Snowden, who I believe is online. Really excited to have the leadership that we have together. And then again, we have from the front desk throughout the building, we have fantastic people. So it's really exciting to see what's going on right now. Another thing that I just wanted to follow up with, the board had voted to approve a communication campaign around opioids a couple months ago. So we've entered into a contract with a company and are getting our print and video ads together. So the last 2 days we've spent filming. So this is my footage. This is the behind the scenes. We actually have one where they were doing behind the scenes. So I was taking a picture of the guy taking a picture of the guy who was doing the filming. So it was really deep behind the scenes. But this is very serious, actually. And so we've got the filming done. We have 3 primary audiences for this work. So we're looking to reach out to people who are active drug users, number one. And I always say, when you're talking about any of these health things, you got to think about who your audience is. So when we talk about smoking, smokers are our audience in many cases, right? So it doesn't matter as much about the person who's never smoked in their life. That's not the person I'm trying to reach. I'm trying to reach the person who smokes to try to find out how we can assist them to quit smoking if that's what they want to do. Similarly, when we're talking about overdoses, one of the key audiences that we want to work with is people who are using drugs. So prevention is important, but we know there's a lot of people in the community, especially over the last few years. We have these kind of diseases of despair that we see where people have experienced trauma in their lives, and there's a reason why people use drugs, and it's not just for recreation. Frequently, people are self-medicating. So reach out to people, and without it sounding too soft, a key thing here is really letting people know that they matter. And in a society that easily dismisses people who may be struggling, we want to make sure that people know that their life is important, that their story matters. So that's one component. The second is for people who are close to somebody who may be struggling with drug use, family, friends, et cetera. So this could be, how do we better support people who've lost somebody in the community, but also how do we support other people who are struggling? And we have a couple of people who we filmed with who've lost family members to overdoses. And they're able to speak very directly. I know we have board members who've lost family members. We have one person who is very active with our work, and he lost his son to an overdose. And when I was talking to him about filming, and he's a white collar retired professional, was a controller at one of our hospitals. And he said, listen, Mike, if I have an employee and they're doing what they shouldn't do, I get a corrective action plan. And if they don't get in line, I fire them. That's not how it is with drug use in your family. You can't just fire people. And I think that goes for a lot of things we deal with in the community, that you need to be there and support, and people are going to be frustrated and people are going to make wrong decisions. So it's how do we support family members who are really struggling with that to deal with a family member who's really struggling. So that's another primary audience. And then also professionals. And this is a big bucket, but this includes emergency departments, police departments, people who are providing direct services, because it's also very frustrating for them and taxing to work with people in the community who may be struggling with substance use issues, and people may not be at their friendliest, and they may be very frustrating to work with. And I know with law enforcement and our EMS system, they may be picking up the same person multiple times. So it's how can we support them, but also what are some best practices around the country so we can get interventions in place so that we don't have to keep dealing with the same person, that we can keep them alive, but hopefully get them on a path to recovery. So I was able to observe some of the filming that went on over the last couple of days, and it's really powerful. I think we're gonna end up with some great information that I hope is going to have an impact. And then our team, and thanks, this is in Kim Peterson's group, we're working at building out our website to have more resources for all of these different audiences so that they can more quickly access support. So
Is that where this information will be, is on your website?
yeah, so we'll be pushing it out. We're looking at print, we're looking at social media, we're looking at even old school billboards, bus stops, places like that. We want to get this out where people can see it and just keep it in front of people. Any questions about this? This is something I think.
Yes, Mr. Young?
And I have a quick question, and this goes back to the first pages of our packet. The opioid settlement fund, can you explain that? And I know it's directly related to what you're talking about, and I just didn't know what that was.
Sure,
Where
absolutely.
it comes from and.
Yep,
Okay.
absolutely. So the funding for this campaign is separate from the opioid settlement fund. This comes from state funding that we get that comes down through the federal government. So this campaign is being paid for with the grant that we have from the Department of Human Services. The opioid settlement fund is something where Kane County participated in lawsuits against people who perpetuated a lot of the issues that we have with opioids in our country right now. So this is national work that's gone on. We have about $1 million that the county has right now from this lawsuit. There's multiple lawsuits involved, so that there's different timing for different lawsuits. But we're expecting this revenue to continue over the next couple of decades. And we have a separate committee of the board that's been formed. It includes myself, Chairman Strathman, Sheriff Hain, State's Attorney Mosser, and the Coroner Rob Russell. So we'll be voting at our meeting probably in November on how we're going to allocate those funds. What it looks like based on the conversation at our last meeting is that we're going to look at some internal projects for the county, and then probably in the future look at doing some grant making to community partners. But that's a separate set of funding, and it's just new. We've only met twice, I think, as a committee. So there'll be more on that in the future, definitely. And I'll provide updates at this committee as we make progress with that.
Any other questions? Was that all you had to say or more?
No, I always got plenty more to say. But I just want a couple quick highlights. So Kate McCormick, who leads our Children's Mental Health Initiative, has a couple of great presentations. So we do monthly trainings for folks. So we have one coming up on ADHD perspectives that I think is going to be pretty exciting. We have some great experts who are going to be presenting. So that's in November. And I'll just go through a couple of these. Coming up in December, occupational therapy benefits for youth with mental health symptoms and developmental differences. So as we take a step back and look at the mental health system, and again, for people who may be newer, we have a grant for the children's system of care. It's really looking at how things fit together and how we can best provide services. When we prioritize what the mental health needs are in our community, one of the big areas is staff. So staff development, staff retention, but also these skill building opportunities. So when we talk to the providers, they're really engaged in how we provide these free trainings to them. So Kate's done a great job. Here's two examples with that. We also have a couple things, and I mentioned these last month, but we do have our Communicable Disease Conference that Director Onwuda's team is putting together, which is coming up next week. And we have the Wake Up Call Backpack Program next week. Again, if you weren't here last month, this is one where we talk to people about vaping and drug use and all of the ways that people can hide things. So the schools do these where they set up a fake bedroom and show where young people can order things online. There's you can have vape things where it's a sweatshirt where your string can be something that you can vape. You can have fake cans that have liquid in them. So if a parent picks them up, it seems like it's a can, but really you can unscrew it and there can be paraphernalia inside. I've never found that in my house, of course, but this kind of thing does exist. So if people have teenagers, it's important to know about these kind of things. So this will be great information at this. And then really want to put in a big push. We are doing a large drill next Friday in partnership with Elgin Community College and the Office of Emergency Management. This is not only a grant requirement for us, but it's also an opportunity for us to really test our ability to hand out medications quickly. Back when after September 11th, 2001, and when the anthrax letters were being mailed out, as we looked at what kind of capacity we needed for emergency planning in the community, one thing that we talked about is that every place in America needed to be able to get antibiotics to the entire population within 48 hours. So this is if anthrax was distributed widely, you didn't know who may have been exposed. And again, the person who sent those letters was never caught. And if you remember in 2001, 2002, that shut down a lot of buildings in Washington, D.C. for quite some time. And so this is a possibility that we need to be aware of, that how do we move people through even faster than we did with COVID vaccine, because after 48 hours, treatment becomes much harder for something like anthrax. So our request is for the county board members, if you can help us, if you want to come out, we'd love to see you. If you have constituents, especially if you're up in the Elgin area that would like to participate, it's kind of an interesting mix because we're trying to make this something that we can learn from. But we'll be handing out candy and Play-Doh and different things like that for people to come through the line. So we want to set it up and test it, but we're trying to make it something fun as well. So love to get you to support us in this effort. Again, it'll be next Friday at Elgin Community College. So,
And our costumes optional?
yeah, costumes optional.
Optional but encouraged.
Yeah, there you go. Optional but encouraged.
Okay, good.
Any questions
Sounds
about
like fun.
this? Yeah, it should be fun.
Yes, Ms. Juby,
I just have a question.
could you
going-
get the mic just a little bit closer, please?
I just have a question. On December 1st, I'm attending one of the mental health meetings that I go out, and there was a request for Narcan. So can I get together with you afterwards and we can set up so you can send somebody there? And it's basically school personnel and mental health providers in the Tri-Cities.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anybody, if you have any constituencies that you work with, if you're interested in having naloxone, we're more than happy to come out, provide the naloxone free of charge, but also provide training to anybody. So absolutely.
Yes, Ms. Bates?
Our food pantry was asking for more Narcan.
The interfaith.
This was Marie Wilkinson.
Yep. Oh, great. Okay. We will follow up. Thank you. Yeah, any of those kind of suggestions like that, we're happy to follow up. Thank you, Ms. Bates.
Okay.
And I think that moves me to my final agenda item. I just want to give a plug for the community health assessment. So we've been talking about this. Our survey is live now. So thank you to Director Elliman and to our planner, Stacy Zhang, and all the team working on this. We've already had about 1,800 responses or so as of a couple days ago. I sent you the materials for this. One request that I have of board members here is if you can share this survey and people can scan it. They can click on a link. I sent draft language that could be used in an email if you wanted to send it out to community groups. We want to get as many people to participate in this as possible. It's available in English and Spanish. If people have groups that maybe aren't as computer literate and you'd like paper copies, we certainly can work with you to get paper copies out to people. And then the company that we're working with can do the data entry and get those in. If there's other languages, I know we're looking at Polish and Ukrainian and Lao. We can get this translated into any language that people may need. So just think about your district and what makes sense. And the more you can help us to push this out, it's just going to give us that much better information. And I certainly encourage you to complete the assessment yourself.
Is this
too.
on Facebook?
It is on
Sure.
Facebook. Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Isaacson? I just want to say that there also is our HR department has done a Spooky USA walk. I don't know if you've all seen this. They're asking us to join a walk. It started Monday and now until October 31st, which is Halloween, which is why they so cleverly named it Spooky. And they're asking us to move 8,000 steps a day, and you can keep track, and it's kind of a fun thing for everybody to do, as well as a healthy thing. So, okay. Any old business before the group? Okay. And I'd like a motion to place the reports on file.
Sanchez asked for unanimous consent.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Unanimous consent has been asked and approved. Okay. Any new business? Anybody? Okay, moving right along this morning, we'll go to our public speakers. And I have Ms. Shilka. Good morning.
Morning. Good morning. Okay. Today I want to address an issue regarding a resolution that just passed. You voted to accept funds to authorize contact tracing. My question is, why are we budgeting for unconstitutional activities? I've spoken on this before, and I know you're not going to reverse your decision. So today I'm basically going to be talking to the audience and whoever listens to this recording. It is not the government's job to be a nanny state and protect everyone from germs. It is not the government's job to inquire into my comings and goings or to ask with whom I've been in contact. It is not the government's job to make personal decisions on my behalf and quarantine me because I may have been exposed to measles. It's just not your place. The government's job is to protect our liberties, not keep everyone safe. That's impossible in a free society. So when you pass this resolution, you assumed authority that you do not have, making this unconstitutional, null and void, or in plain English, it's not valid, of no legal consequence. The Fourth Amendment in our Bill of Rights prohibits such resolutions. It reads in part, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. The intent of the Fourth Amendment is an expectation of a right of privacy for you to live your life as you please within the bounds of civil society. If a contact tracer comes to your door asking questions, you have every right to tell them to leave your property. You are under no obligation to answer any intrusive personal questions. Now, let me tell you the legal basis for that. We live in a constitutional republic, and our Constitution is the supreme law of the land. So let's start way at the beginning. After the colonies won their freedom and became 13 independent sovereign states, they banded together and created the Constitution after the Articles of Federation. Confederation. So each state ceded a small portion of their powers to the newly created federal government to negotiate treaties. All other powers stayed with the states. Furthermore, all 13 sovereign states, including future ones, had to agree to abide by the federal constitution. They could not make any laws that violated it.
Thank you, Ms. Schulka.
Thank you.
That's your time. And I don't know if I mentioned that all of you will be given 3 minutes to speak this morning. Next, I have Ann Vandersteel.
Madam Chair, my name is on the agenda and I'd like to defer my time to Ann. My name is Debbie Kenarowski.
Oh, and you're Ann?
No, my name is Debbie Kenarowski and I'm going to defer my time to Ann. So you can just add the time to her.
Okay.
Thank you.
And you are Ann.
I'm Michelle Betag, and I'd also like to give my time to Ann as well. I signed up to speak. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And one more also, Jean Meyer, I would like to give my time to Ann. Thank you.
Point of order, our
Yes.
state's attorney would like to make a
Yes,
comment.
Mr. Shepard.
Our
microphone.
Sorry. Our procedures do not allow simply for people to donate their time to one person. It would have to be a decision of the board to allow someone to have all the time transferred to them.
And when you say the board, you mean the committee?
So this committee, yeah, the body that is hearing the public comment.
Um, And tell me your name, please. You're Ann. Okay, I'll get the names right yet. And can you tell me what you're talking about this morning?
I'm actually going to address a couple of comments that were made here that are relative to the discussion today going forward with respect to some of the previous comments made as well.
Okay, what is? your
It's in regard to budget and budget items, things that will, provide public safety here to Kane County.
Okay. Do we have the committee's agreement to let her speak?
I promise I don't bite.
Objection? Okay, no objection. So we will give you, I have to do the math here. 12 minutes.
Okay.
So
Care to
welcome.
start?
Yes, you may.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. My name is Ann Vandersteel, and I'm actually a new media journalist, and I've been working very diligently to uncover what's going on across the border, which has direct impacts in all of our local communities. I happen to be here in Kane County on the invitation of a group up here that also values community public safety and the constitutional direction in which our country is being challenged right now. Operation Burning Edge took a hard look at the southern border in Texas and also down in Latin America, Central America, at the migration, the weaponized human migration that we are being challenged with currently. And a lot of these individuals that are coming across the border are being shuttled into communities just like Kane County all over the country with deleterious impacts to your community from a public safety perspective, from a public health perspective, and of course, in addressing Mr. Isaacson's comments with respect to drug use, et cetera. We all know that cartels have been for years shepherding drugs into the United States. The money that you all are spending on campaigns, while I think noble, can also be redirected to actually the border and preventing the drugs that are coming across. And perhaps that might be one place you want to consider looking into and collaborating with states along the border, because now every state is a border state with the impact that we see of the individuals coming across. My own eyes will tell you that the people coming across right now in the Darien Gap by the thousands every day are military-age men. And the very few women and children you see are the ones that are being trafficked. The military-age men come from Afghanistan, they come from China, they come from Pakistan and Iran. Hezbollah and Hamas are here, and they're in every community. We have terror cells in 50 states right now. I've witnessed with my own eyes the caliber of these men that are coming across. They have learned how to infiltrate, and with the Iranian ambassador from Venezuela issuing passports, Venezuelan passports to Hezbollah, to Iranians. They are speaking perfect Spanish. They look and walk and sound just like Venezuelans, but they're not. They intend harm and they intend to upset the communities. These individuals are getting $2,200 a month, and that's more than most people on Social Security right now. This is what's coming to America. I'd also want to address the contact tracing issue here. Bank of America, incidentally, on January 10th of this year, also had a patent issued for contact tracing to track and trace you, the individual, and your banking and tie it together, whether you're traveling in America or outside the country. This, in collaboration with contact tracing jobs that are on the budget here in Kane County, are very worrisome because, again, it is a violation of your constitutional freedoms. Incidentally, on January 10th of this year, when you talk about contact tracing, that is also the same day that Joe Biden, the president of Mexico, Obrador, as well as Justin Trudeau, the prime minister in Canada, also signed the Declaration of North America, essentially dissolving the borders of the United States of America, Canada, and Mexico into one region, defining one region, talking about human migration, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and of course, the importance of what they consider to be the indigenous species, which again, my own eyes witnessed in the Darien Gap, deep in the jungles, where I was down there for 2 weeks and will be returning next week, that the indigenous species are being trampled upon by, again, the policies that are coming from our federal government, which are pulling these people through human osmotic pressure, the push and pull of human migration. We are pulling people from all over the world that are being told they're coming here for a better life, or they have another agenda, Hamas, Hezbollah, and others, and they're trampling on the indigenous that are living in harmony with nature, as Klaus Schwab would have prescribed. They're bringing disease. They're destroying the endemic species that live down in the Darien Gap, and they're weaponizing, again, human migration. Everything that's in the Declaration of North America is all about destroying what has been created by God and what we value, culture. This is the sad tragedy of what's happening here in North America right now. And I would ask, as I did my own legislative district in Martin County, Florida, several weeks ago, when I was sitting in front of a group just like this, and I asked my state representatives, why is Governor DeSantis busing these migrants into the country further? Why send them to Martha's Vineyard? Why not deport them? My own state representative told me he by law can't do it. And I said, have you read the Constitution, Toby? Because by law you can. And again, when it comes to redirecting money and protecting the safety, the public safety, the health safety of your community, I would ask you all to consider allocating money to deporting these individuals that have been bussed into your community, or worse than that, because of the Customs and Border Protection App 1, flown directly into your community, bypassing Customs and Border Protection checkpoints, and deporting them back to the country from which they came. Because again, at $2,200 a month, while that might be 10 times the amount of money that these individuals are used to seeing on a monthly basis, it's going to be a shock to them when they go from 40 cents for a cup of coffee to $8. They're not going to be able to afford it. We're putting undue strain, undue stress. And again, our public safety is really is being called into question right now as we stuff people into cities. Look what's happening to New York City. Look what's happening in Philadelphia. I live in an affluent area in South Florida. We have people crashing on park benches in Jupiter, Florida. This is not stuff that we're used to seeing, and we have no place to put these people. But they're bringing with them multi-drug resistant tuberculosis. Tuberculosis is on the rise in this country. And sadly, a lot of the people that are coming here because they are potentially looking for a good way of life are agriculture or are trained in agriculture by, just how they've grown up.
Ms. Vanderstill,
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like you to know that this is Kane County, and what the Public Health Committee has priorities over and where our jurisdictions lie has little to do with what you're talking to us about this morning.
So what you're saying is you're not concerned if people are bringing disease into your
Ma'am, I
county?
did not say that. I'm saying
Okay,
you're
I'm not
speaking
understanding
to
what you're saying.
You're speaking to a group that we have no way to control what you're asking us to control.
Actually, you know what? I actually think you do. And it is through the local action. Local action here is so critical because our federal government is working against the people right now with these policies. And it is going to be the counties, all 3,141 of them, that stand up individually and collectively together to push back. In Florida, we've actually passed ordinances on the books that have actually the ability to say no to the WHO, no to the federal government for any undue and, egregious and violations of our constitutional rights. We have collectively done that through the education of our county commissioners, just like the smart people sitting in this room, understanding what has been done to Americans without informed consent. Again, to your point, sir, talking about filing consent paperwork, the public was never informed about what was in these vaccines in air quotes. The prescribing information was intentionally left blank. So when you went and asked what's inside those jabs, you were not given information. That's not informed consent. To say people were signing consent forms is kind of a misnomer because they didn't even know what they were consenting to. And that again is a constitutional violation. So I am here standing before you, asking you to consider your best interests and to work collectively together in your county to push back on the tyranny that's coming out of Washington, D.C. And I think that this county actually has a lot that they can do together. I look around at this beautiful community and I see hope in America. But what I see coming out of what I call the district of corruption is just that, corruption. They're not concerned about you. They're concerned about how they
And
can
ma'am, I would
leverage
say
you.
to you that you're talking to us about a jurisdiction we do not have here.
I do believe you do have a jurisdiction here. I believe you have a duty to your citizens in Kane County to push back against the overreach of the federal government. And by forcing migration into your community, they're putting people in here that you didn't ask for, and now they're asking you to deal with this. That's not, that is in your jurisdiction, frankly, and you can push back. And I think that you need to ask the citizens, there's an organization called Tactical Civics that actually teaches the citizens in their community how to organize citizen grand juries and stand up and push back to unlawful statutes and codes and really, frankly, forced vaccination and being threatened with mandates. That is, in fact, what needs to happen in this community. And I believe you all have the power amongst yourselves to do it and hear what I'm saying.
Madam Chair, point of order, the state's attorney would like to talk.
Yes. Pardon me one moment, Mr. Shepro.
Need to remind the board that under your rules, public comment is public comment and is not a debate between audience members and members of the board.
Thank you. My apologies to you, Mr. Lucille.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, sir. Thank you so much. So again, to just give you all a summary, because I stand here as somebody that truly believes that America is meant to be free. I believe that we're meant to have our rights protected. And I think it's time that Americans understand what their fundamental rights are. And citizen grand juries have been around for a long time, and they're organizing. We have 1,000 counties across America that are organizing citizen grand juries right now and are going to start to hold members of the public that are supposed to be their servants accountable for decisions they've made. And while they may have thought they were making decisions in the best interest at the time, perhaps they were succumbing to the pressure coming out of Washington, D.C. And in every county, you work for the people. And again, our country was founded as a collective union of states. We were not meant to be a centralized nation. And I think the power right here in Kane County can serve the people in ways that you have yet to even explore. And I would encourage you all to consider the exploration of such powers that you have by listening to your constituents that are asking you to support them and not the people that the federal government are forcing upon you, not the laws or the mandates that they're forcing upon you, when in fact it is truly a violation of your civil rights as a free American. I would also tell you that in Michigan, as an example, the state of Michigan has actually held Gilead Pharmaceuticals up as someone who has committed crimes against the people that were forced to take remdesivir against their will as a treatment option. Remdesivir was administered in the hospitals during COVID, killing millions of people. And prior to that, the WHO had trialed remdesivir in 2018 and 19 to treat Ebola and learned that remdesivir was killing more than the Ebola. So they outlawed it and said, we'll never use this. Dr. Fauci, in all of his wisdom, decided that that was the drug to use for COVID and claimed it as a miracle drug. So this unfortunately was told to you. You didn't know this. How would you know? They were holding all this back. There's an agenda out here that's not supportive of the citizens of Kane County nor the citizens of, frankly, any county. So when you talk about opiate drug users and all this, we need to look at the borders. We need to look at the policies coming out of Washington, D.C. that are encouraging the trafficking of all these narcotics that are destroying our communities and distracting us from being free people, healthy people. I applaud your efforts to do what you can locally here, but let's also address the bigger problem, the bigger concern, because I know where your heart is. You're trying to save lives. And thank you for that. We should not be subject to policies like the Declaration of North America that's pulling these migrants into our communities and forcing them upon you to deal with. This is not what's supposed to happen in America. So you all are, again, I applaud you meeting like this. I applaud everybody here in the audience that shows up every single month for these meetings. This is how a functioning government works. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. Our next speaker is Dr. Bresnahan. Is Dr. Bresnahan here? Oh, there you are.
Hatred stirs up strife, but love conquers all offenses. Proverbs. There's a big push to vaccinate all children with the COVID vaccines, even a video coming from Barack Obama and Anthony Fauci. Why might there be such a big push when it's been shown in literature that children do fine without the shot? Perhaps because there is a big legal advantage to the pharmaceutical companies to have them on the childhood vaccine schedule. It has nothing to do with helping your children. In February 2019, the medical board came to Dr. Paul Thomas and said, prove to me that the vaccine-friendly plan is as safe as the CDC vaccine schedule. Dr. Paul hired an outside expert to study the differences between his 2,700 vaccinated patients and 560 some unvaccinated patients. They found that in all cases, these categories, the vax children were alarmingly higher. Asthma, allergic rhinitis, eczema, sinusitis, gastroenteritis, respiratory infections, otitis media, conjunctivitis, and other infections, breathing issues, behavioral issues, and ADHD, where there was an explosion of ADHD in the vax kids and 0 cases in the unvaxxed children. In his 10-year practice, too many vaccines too soon causes immune activation too soon. The medical board took away Dr. Thomas's license. There are the Mawson study, 2 Hooker and Mills studies, and finally the control group, which the book is still available, had the same findings. The VAERS reporting system showed that in the entire time of VAERS, there has never been a spike in deaths until the COVID shot for children. Huge spike. Children do very well without the shot. Change of subject. Direct quote from Bill Gates. When I was growing up, my parents were always involved in various volunteer things. My dad was head of Planned Parenthood. There's a real impact that you can have in this area, anything to do with reproductive health. The UN's Population Fund received a 57 million grant to their Unpopulation Fund from Gates on April 21st, 2014 for reproductive health, an abortion agenda. It will expand to Botswana, Ghana, Uganda, and the United Republic of Tanzania. Dr. Fauci is on the Leadership Council of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Gates vows to pump messenger RNA into the food supply to force jab the unvaccinated.
Thank you, Dr. Bresnahan.
Thank you.
And our final speaker this morning is David Young.
Thank you, David Young. Today I'm going to talk about pulmonary hypertension. October 18th, 2021, 2 years ago, the day that my mom passed away. January of that year, she was healthy. I mean, she went to her heart doctor and he told her, hey, I don't want to see you for 4 more years. You're have fun. So she wanted to travel, but at that time she had to have a vaccine passport. So she went and got the J&J shot and got a booster. And then around May, June, she started having really hard time breathing. And then she went to the ER in September, and I got a phone call from the doctor, and he said, well, we figured out why your mom can't breathe. And the reason is it's called pulmonary hypertension. I didn't even know what pulmonary hypertension was. I said, what can we do about this? And he said, hospice. So we took her home. She died on October 18th. And I was reading this book from Dr. Robert Malone. He wrote a book about, well, Dr. Robert Malone is the inventor of the mRNA, which is the method of these COVID vaccines. So the mRNA was invented by Dr. Robert Malone. He wrote a book, and in his book, it says the COVID-19 vaccines contain genetic instructions that cause the body to produce enormous numbers of SARS-CoV-2 spike proteins in order to provoke an immune response. Unfortunately, it turns out that the spike proteins themselves are toxic to cells. For example, endothelial cells line the inside of arteries to make blood flow smoothly. Damage to the endothelial cells caused by spike proteins increases the potential for microscopic blood clots to form. These microscopic blood clots can travel to the lungs, increasing the risk of developing pulmonary arterial hypertension, which is a serious progressive condition that overtaxes and weakens the heart. There is no known cure for that condition. And that's from his book. So in the past, I've talked about there have been myocarditis, and that's been even Fauci last month admitted that myocarditis could be a result of the mRNA vaccines for young men, and then it is a risk. So as speaking on this side of the platform, I'd like to ask that the Kane County Health Department put some of these adverse effects onto the website so that people can be informed. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes our meeting this morning. Do I have a motion and a second for adjournment? Everybody wants to stay,
Sanchez moves.
Should be seconds.
and
Second.
Mr. Young seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Spare.